I think New Leaf came from, wanting to work with teams to help them solve their most pressing business needs. Overall, I'm very excited about what AI can do for risk-based quality management. I think we are just scratching the surface.
Welcome back to the Clinical Current, where I am joined by brand new guest, Rachel Hoffmann Sund. Rachel has spent decades championing quality in clinical research, not just as regulatory requirement, but as a philosophy that protects patients, builds trust, and drives innovation. She recently launched New Leaf Consultants to offer leadership in 3 service areas: risk-based quality management, change management, and GCP domain expertise for AI project implementation. Rachel has a passion for guiding teams towards solutions for complex problems inherent to clinical research. Thank you so much for joining us, Rachel.
Thank you so
happy
much
to have you.
It's a pleasure.
What kind of drew you to the quality piece, if you will?
The thing that drew me to quality, honestly, is that it really is sort of bringing the big picture and what teams are trying to achieve to the focus. So you can get really lost in the details of what we do as researchers. There's a lot of operational complexity, but when you're doing the quality work and it's rooted in GCP, you're really thinking about that submission. And so it takes sort of this end-to-end mindset of, what we do today, the decisions that we make, what is this going to look like in our submission? What is this going to look like in a health authority inspection? And I just really like that. I like, helping teams to kind of understand what's really important, what is going to make or break this study? How do we know if we're in trouble? How do we know that we're on track? What are the things that we need to do? And so that's why I really like
you kind of gravitated
quality
towards
work.
It's kind of like working with the end in mind. I think, to your point, people get so caught up in like the everyday focus aspects of their particular area when really, from a quality perspective, you can actually take a step back and work with that end in mind. And at the end of the day, it's to get, hopefully, the drug approved so it can reach patients.
Absolutely. And that's really rewarding. I think on the research side, they're used to taking risks. They're innovators. They're, thinking outside the box. They're doing this as part of their everyday work. And as quality, we're highly regulated. So we help them to kind of keep that in mind. And if, to help them simplify to the principles of GCP, patient safety, rights, well-being, data integrity. And thinking about that, the whole process through designing the studies and executing the studies. This is, why I like it. It's, helping people to really focus on what matters.
From your perspective, what do you find are the most common quality gaps? You just mentioned protocol deviations. Of course, they're going to happen. But from a clinical trial execution perspective, is there a theme? Are there common quality gaps? What have you been seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think a theme is that, as researchers, we are developing more complex protocols because that is necessary in this scientific landscape. So things are changing very quickly, and we need to get, more creative about study designs. With that complexity, it is also equally complex for clinical sites and sponsors to execute the study appropriately. So I think it starts with that complexity and, recognizing that we need to ask the right questions up front. So let's just take something simple. You have eligibility labs. Okay. So, if you are conducting a global study, do you have appropriate time for shipping and processing from different regions of the world? Are investigators going to rely upon local laboratory testing? What happens if those local labs and central labs are, if there's, it doesn't match up?
The domain,
So how to handle that? So asking those questions up front, along with, what is the data that's going to make or break this study? How do we focus on critical to quality factors and the risks associated with those? We have to identify them. We have to mitigate, or maybe we're accepting some of these risks, but it takes asking a lot of questions up front so that those can be identified and teams can have oversight throughout the life of the trial.
Yeah. You started the protocol. That is a good starting point. I think there's always that push and pull, right? So if you speak with many of the medical monitors or the really scientific folks, they'll want to put as much as you possibly can and just pack it into the protocol. But then to your point, it makes it really difficult on the execution side for the sites. And then you're going to come up with those protocol deviations and really just dirty data. So I think at the end of the day, it probably has to be a compromise. In terms of quality metrics, how do you see the role of quality metrics evolving in clinical development? Our current KPIs align with what truly reflects, I think, patient safety and protocol integrity. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think central analytics, quality metrics are really crucial for teams now. It's very important that teams have a mechanism for getting an early read on any safety signals. And there's a lot of analytics available to teams to be able to do this. So, in the old days of research, you had your sites are, putting things on 3-part NCR forms, and you're kind of waiting to see what comes in. Now everything is a bit more not automatic, but the speed with which we're getting the data is faster than ever before. So there's a lot that can be done. So I think the central analytics piece is very important. Yeah. That being said, and again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about asking the right questions about what's really important. What are we trying to achieve? How is this data going to be used? When you're sitting down to define those metrics and what you're going to be looking at, the team should be kind of coalescing around something that is, those critical to quality factors that you can get sort of lost in a lot of noise if you're choosing too many things to look at. Sure. So I think central analytics is really important. It's important that the team understands how those metrics are what the metric is actually measuring. Do they understand the data behind it? Is this data clean? Is it reliable? Sure. So there's a lot that goes into the central analytics piece, and really it has to be actionable. Yeah. So if you're getting analytics and there's a signal, a trend of a non-compliance, and you're not sure who's going to take ownership of that or what the action is, the value is lost. So that also has to be determined from the time of identifying the risk. Has the risk become an issue? And who is in the best position in this system to get to the root cause and address the issue?
Yeah. So you brought up central analytics, which actually leads nicely into my next question about AI. Yes. So I envision, and I'm really curious to see what your thoughts are here. How do you envision AI reshaping, to your point, risk-based quality management, quality oversight in clinical research? And what may be the limitations? Are there concerns from your perspective as a quality person? Or what are you excited about? Ethical considerations, all that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I'm very excited about what AI can do for risk-based quality management. I think we are just scratching the surface. Yeah. Our colleagues in R&D have been using AI to come up with new molecular entities, and this is happening faster than ever before. And it's amazing what is happening in that space. But on the quality side, it's not as ingrained yet because there's concerns around data privacy,
Sure.
around bias.
Integrity.
It's when you're in this highly regulated space going into something new, especially when the regulations haven't caught up yet,
Correct.
around how we're going to use AI.
And they probably won't for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think what is important in the AI space is that teams coalesce around the problem that they're trying to solve and the business need.
Yeah.
This is what I have learned through course of me studying a bit about AI and just getting my feet wet, that is very important. A lot of AI projects fail because they're not going back to that initial business need. They're not answering the problem. So I think in clinical quality, if we come up with those questions we're trying to answer, and do we have the data sources to do so? How do we ensure that that data is operationalized appropriately for what we want to do, working with our data scientists and data engineers to make something that goes back to the question that we're trying to answer and the problem that we're trying to solve. So I think it's very powerful. The issue of transparency and explainability is very important. So if you're going through and you're coming up with a metric, say about giving, say you're talking about site performance. And there are certain quality metrics. You're going to be looking at protocol deviations. You're going to be looking at staff turnover. You're going to be looking at different variables as part of this overall site performance score. That needs to be very transparent how you're coming up with that and explainable to sites and the study team so that they know what this score actually means. So that would be an example of the importance of the explainability and transparency.
Yeah. But ultimately, I think to your point, we're just scratching the surface of what AI can do in this realm. And Absolutely. It'll be really interesting to see what happens in the next few years. I think we're close.
It is. And why it's really exciting too is because there's a concern about bias in the system, but this can also help us to see data in a different way and elucidate some of our own biases.
I was just going to say we have our own biases for sure. Yeah. If not more than
we may
AI.
think we understand the root cause of a GCP compliance issue.
Sure.
And when we really look at the data, we're finding out that the root cause is multifactorial or it's something else entirely.
Right. So we are not without bias by any means. Yeah. And we also, they always talk about human in the loop, right? So even if whatever AI produces, we still obviously are very involved as humans to do a check and just to make sure it's realistic and, to your point, actionable. So I think it's not without the human in the loop, any of this. So that would hopefully alleviate some concerns from an ethical perspective or from a regulatory quality perspective with respect to AI.
For sure.
Yeah. So you recently launched your new company, New Leaf Consultants. What inspired you to do so? Was there a specific New Leaf moment, or was it just a series of events? What really inspired you to do that? And then we can talk a bit about what the company is all about.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
So launching New Leaf really came from a time in my life looking at what I can offer as a clinical quality operations lead, and wanting to kind of do that in a way that working with teams who are nimble and innovative, and who are looking for some guidance as they're developing their clinical programs through GCP. So being able to kind of use that in a way to get down to what I'm really passionate about, which is helping teams to solve problems. I really do love that.
Yeah.
I remember bring your child to work day. My son was 8, and he comes to this, he came to the office, and he got to go to different activities they had set up for the kids. And, this is all very exciting. And, he came out of this and went back to school. And, the teacher asked him, what did you learn at your mom's work? And he said, my mom solves problems. And so I thought that was really funny, because I love solving problems.
He thought exactly what it was.
Yeah, my mom solves problems. So that was, So I think New Leaf came from, wanting to work with teams to help them solve their most pressing business needs. And do that in kind of a fractional, leadership position. Also combining the change practitioner work and the GCP domain expertise for AI projects. I think, these are the 3 service areas that I've kind of
really focused on. So I have one last question, again, around change management, but it'll bring the AI piece into it. So I think every company, whether it happens now or within the next 5 years, will definitely be implementing more AI to solve these problems within clinical research. Is there a specific approach that you can help those companies take with respect to change management surrounding the AI piece? Do you have a philosophy, or what are your thoughts there?
I do. So I think probably if I had sort of a dream role in all of this, it would be as that GCP domain expert on an AI project team. So what that looks like, you have your executive leadership, executive sponsors of a project. You have senior leaders who have basically been given, the goal for what they're trying to achieve, but they don't necessarily understand how all of this is going to happen. And really, in the world of AI, everyone is learning about how this is going to happen. It's changing very quickly. So you've got a team of data engineers, data scientists, you have software engineers who are all going to be making this happen. And, that domain expert is going to be the person who can keep coming back to that business need, bridge the gap between what executive sponsorship wants and the senior leadership goals, and how that is going to happen. So, knowing enough about the technology and how those different functions work, how we need to operationalize the data. So making sure that it's clean and reliable. What is the source? Is it labeled appropriately, so that then your data scientist can, come up with the best algorithm, and you keep looking at iterations of this to see if it's answering your question. The end users are not going to understand any of this, maybe some of it. So, what is this visually going to look like? How are people going to act upon, what they're getting from the AI? This is what I think is really important, that a domain expert on these teams is crucial. And, so I can think of myself as, a GCP expert, and also that change management mindset of, this is going to be very different from what people do today. And so how do we explain this? And are we still meeting the business need? Are we answering the most pressing questions? Because a lot of AI projects fail because they're not doing that. They're not coming back.
Yeah.
To that question.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly excited for you. I think there's definitely a need, and there'll be more of a need as AI picks up specifically. So I'm really interested to touch base with you. I hope you'll come back on the podcast in 6 months to a year, and I would love to see what's happening out there with you and with New Leaf. And I really am just thrilled that you've gotten into this space and launched New Leaf, and I can't wait to see what's in store for you. I know it will be great. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and
Thank you so much.
talk. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. So we will talk again soon. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
That wraps up this episode of The Clinical Current. A sincere thank you to Rachel for sharing her valuable insights on quality and change management in the ever-evolving clinical research landscape. If you found today's conversation helpful, be sure to subscribe to our channel. And for more insights and resources, head to ascendiaclinical.com and follow us on LinkedIn. I'm Teresa Hines, and we'll see you next time on The Clinical Current.